In this video, I'm going to show you how to replace your knuckle assembly on your Kia Soul. It's located behind your front wheel. Using a 21mm socket, we're going to take off our wheel. If your wheel is stuck, put one lug nut back on and give it a good whack with a rubber mallet. And remove your wheel. I'm going to use a 17mm socket and take out these bolts that are holding my caliper on. Make sure you have a hand on your caliper so it doesn't fall off. I'm going to take this off and support it with a caliper hanger or bungee cord. I'm going to use an impact drive Phillips head screwdriver, and we're going to take out this screw. There should be one here as well, but as is missing. You may not have any at all. They could be both missing. Take off your rotor, set it aside. I'm going to use a 14mm on the head of the bolt and a 15mm on the nut. I'm going to take off this nut. Now you can take out your bolt. Here's a tech tip. Use this exhaust clamp and put it around your lower control arm so you can pry down on it without it slipping. Position your clamp so you can pry down on the control arm. Okay, it looks like we got to split open the knuckle a little bit. To do that, I'm going to use a cold chisel and a hammer. You could also use a pry bar and split it open a little bit. Once you feel like you've spread it a little bit, you can use your pry bar again and pry down on it. There we go. Let's unping our axle nut so we can remove it. Once you're done with that, you can take off your axle nut. Using a 32mm socket, remove it. Make sure your axle is free. You can use a rubber mallet and give it a good whack. If it's not moving, you can go and use a punch and put it in the center there. Our axle was pretty stuck. We had to use an air hammer to get it loose or free. And we also had to put our ball joint back in the knuckle. You may find that if yours is also stuck, it's a good idea to maybe stabilize it a little better with the ball joint back in the knuckle. Typically, you shouldn't have to do this. Your axle should just be free. Using a 10mm socket, we're going to take out our ABS sensor. Take out your speed sensor. Remove your cotter pin with some wire cutters. Using a 16mm socket, I'm going to take off our tie rod castle nut. Next, we're going to tap it here gently, and that'll release that. All right, so now we have our tie rod out, and now I'm just going to tap this out the rest of the way. Again, our axle's pretty seized in there. You shouldn't have this much of a complication, typically. Remove your axle. I'm going to put it on a bungee cord so it doesn't fall. I'm using a 19mm on the nut and a 17mm wrench on the head. Let's take out our strut bolts. To get to this top one, I'm going to lower my bungee. Now I'm going to hold on to my knuckle. I'm going to push out these bolts. Remove your knuckle. Feel free to put some grease on your spindle for your axle. And get a strut bolt ready. Feed that into your knuckle. And once you are lined up enough, you can put this in your strut. And feed it through. And that should hold it in place. If you need to, you can use a rubber mallet and tap it in. I'm going to put my other bolt in for the strut. And we'll get our nuts started here. Now I'm going to just place this in the ball joint into the knuckle by moving my control arm and pushing in. Once you get your ball joint in the knuckle, you're going to put your bolt in and just start your nut. Now we're going to put our tie rod in. Now we're going to put our tie rod in, so line it up with your knuckle. You may have to give it a little bit of a tap. Get your tie rod in there. Now you can put your nut. You want to make sure you get everything started first before you start tightening things down. So let's get our axle nut on as well. Let's tighten this down. torque these after. Everything's at ride height. Let's tighten up our tie rod. We'll be torquing that after. Let's put our speed sensor back in. Line it up, put it in the hole. And push in. And snug it up. Make sure it's wrist tight. And that should be good. I'm going to put some anti-seize on my hub. Make sure you don't get it where the lug nuts go. Wipe it off if you do. And now let's put our rotor on. Line up your screws. Hold your rotor on. Ours only has one because the other one's broken off inside. Use a Phillips head to tighten it up. Now we're going to put our caliper back on. Take it off your hanger. Don't forget to remove your hanger. Line it up. Slide it in. And you can start your first bolt up top. Start your bottom one. Tighten these up and torque them to 70 foot-pounds. While we're at it, since it's the same size, we're going to go ahead and torque our tie rod to 22 foot-pounds. I don't think that's actually torquing. Hold on. Now we'll put our cotter pin in, slide it through. If you feel like it doesn't fit through, you're going to tighten it, not loosen it. That looks like it'll line up well. Make sure you have the long side on the top, if it fits. And then you're going to take the long side and flip it up and over. I'm using wire cutters for that, and then this one I'm going to go around the side. You can also just cut it off if you want. I'm going to raise the suspension to ride height with my pole jack. Probably good. And now we're going to torque down all our bolts. Torque this at ride height. Torque this to 116 foot-pounds. We're going to remove our pole jacks so we're no longer at ride height, so I can lower my vehicle down. We're going to torque down our axle nut. I put a couple lug nuts here to protect the threads on our studs. We're going to torque this to 198 foot-pounds using a 32 millimeter socket. Let's do it. Take off your lug nuts and your pry bar. We're going to pin over the nut onto the axle. Install your wheel. You're going to start your lug nuts by hand. Once you get those started by hand, you're going to start at the lower one, walk the wheel on. And then tighten in a star-like pattern. Using a 21 millimeter socket, I'm going to torque our wheels to 80 foot-pounds in a star-like pattern.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.